Welcome back to The Line. Our final topic this week is the race for lieutenant governor in 2018. State Senator Michael Padilla recently dropped out of the race after other prominent leaders like Michelle Lujan Grisham called for him to step down over past sexual harassment allegations. There are several Democrats still in the race, and on the Republican side, Michelle Garcia Holmes, a former police officer, she's running. She also ran for mayor of Albuquerque earlier this year. And Dan, traditionally, lieutenant governor hasn't had much power. And we were just kind of talking how a lot of states are sort of looking at what this position is about in the first place. But there's something interesting about some of the faces that have come into this. We'll talk about Javier Gonzalez here in a quick second as well. But your sense of this race, is it a little more active at this time of the year? No, is it about the same as it usually is?
I think, I think the lieutenant governor candidate, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a lieutenant governor candidate that brought anything to the table to help get the governor elected. But they've sure brought things to the table to keep the governor from getting elected.
I see.
I mean, how many people can forget the Bruce King, Gary Johnson first race when, the comments were made by Patricia Madrid, the day before that stuff in Las Vegas was said, they were up by 6 points, and the day after they were down by 3.5, and then we get Gary Johnson for 8 years out of that.
Right.
So I think that, and lieutenant governor hasn't been a great stepping stone for people. I mean, very few people have been lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. I mean, Casey Luna tried to do it, and it didn't work out. Walter Bradley's done it. And so, I think that the lieutenant governor position, other than they do run the Senate, and they preside over the Senate, and as we look at redistricting coming up, the districts seem to be getting more and more competitive, and those numbers seem to be getting more and more tight. Mm-hmm. And if that happens, it's going to be interesting to see who the lieutenant governor is, because they actually have a play. Right. And not only do they have a play party-wise, but they have a play with the governor, because think about it, if you don't have a great relationship with the governor, and you get elected lieutenant governor, and that's the governor and I'm lieutenant governor, we don't agree on policy, well, when that bill makes it to the Senate floor and it's a tie vote, I don't have to agree with the governor. Right. I have the right to say, I don't agree with your policy. So as those districts are getting more and more closely aligned, and you're starting to see the opportunity for the lieutenant governor to have to cast that deciding vote, I think it has a little bit more of a flair to it. And it's going to be interesting. You got someone running right now, the only announced candidate, I think, was a Democrat, then became an independent, ran for mayor. Right. And, if she gets elected lieutenant governor with Steve Pearce, who there's nothing moderate about Steve Pearce, I can't imagine those two sitting down in a room and agreeing on policy very much.
That's a good point. I mentioned the Santa Fe mayor. Perhaps it could be said that he has some statewide notoriety because of the soda tax thing. So he's sort of got that going for him, or maybe it's something going against him. Who knows? It's all politics. But your thoughts on that? It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, coming from being a mayor, he's got, and he had some national attention. Right. So, I think he's got good name ID. I think Howie Morales has good name ID. He won the 2014 pre-primary convention. Right. And also, Brian Colon might jump in. I don't know if he's.
That's interesting.
I don't know if that's happening, but he's got good name ID. Yep. So I think there are lots of people, running around.
And when you say good name ID, do you mean here in Albuquerque or in Santa Fe or statewide?
I mean statewide.
Okay.
Yeah, because it needs to be statewide. But it is interesting that they're, they run separately, right, until the primary, and then they join forces with the governor. The lieutenant governor's office hasn't been a big, policy-making role. Mm-hmm. I think we saw Diane Dennis take that in a different direction. Right. She had a few, top issues, early childhood, payday lending, other things that she really focused on. But that really depended on her relationship with the governor. Yeah. And him sort of allowing her, to have that leadership.
That's a fair point, absolutely. What do you think about this situation? I'm kind of interested in Michelle Garcia Holmes' situation. I mean, the idea that she's a law and order person. She comported herself brilliantly during the mayoral race. I mean, she really won over a lot of people. She was always very factual. She never skirted any issues. Could she play statewide, or particularly in the southern part of the state?
I think she has a tough road ahead of her.
Okay.
Well, she's got no road if she's got no opposition, right? She's going to win.
Well, that's true.
That's a point.
But that's true. If nobody else runs, then it's going to be a walk-on. But
yeah.
But I think there are people in Albuquerque who don't know who she is, and she ran for mayor.
Right.
trying to figure out who she is outside of Albuquerque is going to be, that much more of a challenge. But Dan's right. If there's nobody else running, then
Right.
she'll have a walk on there, and that'll be a very interesting dynamic between her and Pierce.
Right.
But I think on the Democrat side, much like the last time we had. When Diane Dennis was running, and we had umpteen, it felt like 5 or 6 different people running, and
Right.
I think at the end it was a 5-way split. I just find it really interesting that everybody lines up to run for this particular position that doesn't really do a whole lot.
Right.
It's like running for maid of honor in a wedding. It's very weird. I'm like, what are you doing? But people do it, and I think of the people who are in there, all of them will have a big challenge in trying to get their name out there. I think Howie has connections, Howie Morales, because he ran statewide before.
Right.
He's got some connections statewide. He's got strong support from the teachers union, or did back in his last campaign. And so he's got a lot of name ID out there from that. Of the other people that have announced, and I don't even want to start to wrap my head around the Brian Cullen thing, but everybody else that's running, they have a very, very, it's a challenge. And I think Javier, has been in the news, but there's a lot of people who didn't support that
right.
soda tax.
That's right.
And it went down, so it's not like he can hang his hat on that and say that was something that was successful. But there's several unions also that do support him. I actually already saw bumper stickers for him recently that were union backed. So it was kind of, people are starting to jump onto his campaign as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
Are those the bumper stickers? I think I might have seen those. They were the Lujan Grisham with Gonzalez underneath it. Did I have that?
Yeah, it was G and it said Grisham Gonzalez.
Right, that's
but
right.
Of course, the Lujan Grisham people immediately said her name is Lujan Grisham.
Right,
not
right,
Grisham.
right,
So,
right.
they were quick to point that out.
That's
But
right.
but of course, those are very, very premature, given that they wouldn't actually join forces until
That's right.
until after the primary.
That's right. I mean, everything folks are saying here, Steve, when you have to spend your own dime to do this, it's one thing to ride somebody else's, name, your governor, so to speak, your partner, and you're doing appearances together and someone else is paying for all this. It's on your dime to get all this stuff out there, a statewide race. It's awfully hard. It just makes it very, very difficult. So I'm curious where you see sort of the handicapping here. Who would make a better choice, perhaps on the Democrat side, for ostensibly Michelle Lujan Grisham? Don't want to give it, away to her, certainly, but who would be a good choice there?
Well, I guess I would agree with my fellow panelists. I think Michael Padilla had been the front runner, I think.
Right.
He withdrew. So now I think Howie Morales and Javier Gonzalez, I think, are now the front runners. I think, as Laura said, I think they both are going to get some union support, probably Morales more than Gonzalez. But Gonzalez is a big ideas guy.
Right.
Yeah, and he gives a good campaign speech. He's a good campaigner. I would kind of give the edge to him.
Okay.
And he's a liberal, and it doesn't hurt to be a liberal in a Democratic pre-primary.
Gotcha.
That's a good thing. The other thing I would point out is you can kind of see the political lay of the land, the way the politicos see it, by looking at the number of candidates running for each party.
Right.
Like on the Republican side,
Nobody wants
you've
to
got
line up to get
you've
shot
got
at the end.
the governor and lieutenant governor unopposed.
Right.
On the Democratic side, you've got 6 people running for lieutenant governor and 4 for governor.
Right.
So I think the politicals at least are now seeing it as a Democratic wave, but I would say don't underestimate Steve Pierce.
I would
He's
tell
a good candidate.
you that on the Democrat side, there's so many people running that it's going to depend on the mix, right? I would think with Michelle Lujan Grisham, Howie Morales would be the tie. She doesn't need anybody that's more liberal. She's got the liberal state. If it's someone like Joseph Cervantes, it would have to be a Javier Gonzalez because he needs his liberal side to be sewn up. So it's going to be interesting to see because I'm going to tell you right now, if Javier Gonzalez and Michelle Lujan Grisham come together, I don't think that helps the ticket.
Gotcha.
And if Joseph Cervantes and Howie Morales come together, I don't think that helps the ticket. So not only do you got to run, but then you got to within the party start saying who's the right person to partner with whoever the front runner is.
See, it's more complicated than exactly right. It's not just that. Thank you all. Good stuff on a Friday night.